On the makeup of the U.S. House and U.S. Senate. Already a number of Senate races have been called around the country, and they have not materially changed the makeup of the Senate at this point. Among the early winners in the Senate races, Rand Paul, the Republican in Kentucky, that is already a Republican seat, so not a pickup. Dan Coates in Indiana, former congressman and senator returning to the Senate, that is a pickup for Republicans. It looks like Rob Portman, former Bush administration official and congressman, is the new Republican senator from Ohio. That, again, not a pickup. It's holding a Republican seat. Still waiting on a call in the Florida race, which is a three-way race. Marco Rubio, the Republican, Kendrick Meeks, the Democrat, and the independent candidate is Florida Governor Charlie Crist. That race not yet over, but Rubio in all of the polls had a commanding lead. We'll also watch the Senate races in West Virginia, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Illinois, that's Barack Obama's old Senate seat, and New Hampshire. Those are all races where the polls have now closed, and we should be getting some hard and fast results, Liz, on those very soon. And of course, a lot of interest in these local races, and maybe no more so than in the Bexar County District Attorney's race. It's interesting, that's a race that usually is not a real sexy or highly touted one, but this year Reed and LaHood have become very entertaining and of course very, very nasty and contentious, refusing to debate up until the 11th hour, running lots and lots of TV ads, spending a tremendous amount of money, more than usual in that race.
The man who would be the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, who is expected to come down here after it's clear, if it's clear, that the Republicans have taken control of the House for the first time in 4 years. John Boehner will address the country. It is said that this will not take too much of a celebratory tone, because Boehner wants to note that there are 9.7.
If he'll have any other people with him from the apparent Republican leadership, because there's a lot of speculation beneath Boehner about who the other leaders will be and whether it'll just be a seniority-based promotion, or whether maybe in a nod to the Tea Party, some younger members of the House will move into leadership. Do we know anything about that?
You know, I'll tell you, we're expecting in just the next 20 minutes, so believe it or not, even though this ballroom is relatively empty of any Republican supporters.
Right. And for County Judge Nelson Wolf, 79%. No worries for him tonight. He can go to bed early. County Court at Law number 6. This has been a pretty tight race here with Wayne Christian and Ray Olivati. Wayne has 56% of the early votes to Democrat Ray Olivati's 43%. It's just one of the judges' races. Now I'm going to go down to the propositions, because this is pretty interesting as far as the school propositions are concerned. You know, the San Antonio School District had a $515 million bond package there, and 65% for, 34% against. So that's looking pretty good for the San Antonio School District. However, we have some Judson propositions. Proposition number 3 for the Judson School District, 60% against. And Proposition 2, 55% against.
Real quick before I have to let you go, what about this governor's race? Well, how does it look right now?
Well, it's a very successful election cycle for the Republican Party, more so than I expected locally. So that was one surprise, but nationally it seems like things are working out the way that folks had projected them to work out. So in that sense, it wasn't too surprising.
Honor. Mr. Mayor, welcome to the show. Nice to have you here.
Oh, good to be here. It's always nice when you're just watching the election.
Well, but you know you're not. You're according to Jan Jarbo Russell in the Express News, you're running for governor in 2014.
I can tell you that if the voters will have me, I'll be here until May 31, 2017.
Okay, so is this premature? Not true?
I'm going to be mayor until 2017.
Not thinking about this.
Yeah, you know, obviously the voters have their say in that, but I'll be around here to fill out the tenure that was now given in terms of 8 years So it's flattering, but I'm going to stay here in San Antonio.
A lot of pundits have mentioned you, and I understand what you're saying, but you also can understand why they're mentioning you. Bill White not getting it done against Rick Perry. What do the Democrats have to do to win a statewide race in Texas?
Well, I think it's more, really more what has to change in Texas before the Democrats can win a race. We have 29 statewide offices. All 29 of them are held by a Republican. Obviously, we have a Republican-controlled Texas Senate and Texas House. We were one-party state Democrat for many, many years in Texas, and now for the last 15 years or so, we've been a one-party Republican state. You're going to have somebody that can appeal across the board and just demographic change, and I think a little bit of a moderation in the state before you can have a successful Democratic candidate. You think about Gary Morrow, I think in '98 had about 32% of the vote. Tony Sanchez had 36% of the vote. Chris Bell got 30 or 31% of the vote. And now Bill White, we don't know what he's going to get, but at least according to the polls, it's going to be something short of victory. So, something has to change in the state before there can be a successful top-of-the-ticket Democrat.
All right, so Mayor Castro telling us tonight he'll run for governor in 2018, not 2014. No, he didn't actually say that. I was inferring that from his remarks. He's with us for a little while here on KTSA.
The local races here, our local delegation, Congressman Rodriguez is in a very, very close race, and Congressman Gonzalez, I think, is going to be fine. With Congressman Cuellar, I don't think Laredo has reported yet, so that may be what's skewing the numbers. Yeah.
Joining us now on the KTSA Newsmaker line, you'll want to pull on your headphones, Democratic candidate for Bexar County DA Nicholas LaHood. Nico LaHood, good evening to you. And there have been reports that you have or were going to call Judge Reed. Have you done that?
Oh, no, sir, not yet. No, not at all. Not yet.
Right. What do you make of these early vote numbers?
Well, they're definitely not what we anticipated or we expected. I know that was the fear of a lot of people. I'm still very proud of the campaign we ran. I'm proud of the support I have and the issues that we raised up. And we're just going to watch more of the returns come in as the night goes on.
Do you look at these numbers and think about anything you wish you had done or wish you hadn't said or anything you would do differently at this point?
I really don't. I thought about that earlier today. And at the beginning of this race, like I told you, I think before, I prayed about it. I was comfortable in my skin. I knew that the issues that I was bringing up were valid issues. Anyone in the justice system will agree with them and have agreed with the issues that we brought up. And so I'm very proud of the campaign we ran, and I'm proud of what I've done.
So just to be clear, despite the rumors, you have not and are not yet conceding the DA's race?
No, sir.
All right, well, we will check back with you and keep in touch. Nico LaHood with us on the KTSA Newsmaker line. Mr. LaHood, thank you very much.
No, thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. All right. Julian Castro, this puts me in mind a little bit of you in the, what was that, the 05?
2005, yeah.
You make the first big run. You were moving up from city council. You lose to somebody who's got all the advantages, but people look at you and they still see somebody who's going places. And I think people look at Nicholas LaHood that way.
Oh, absolutely. First, I know Nico, and he is a very good guy. He's very qualified. He's a great attorney. I hope that, we don't know how the numbers are going to pan out, but if they don't go his way, I hope that we do see him back again. I heard very consistently throughout the last few months from folks who did not know him and had a chance to talk to him. They said, you know what, because of things that I'd heard or the baggage that existed, I wasn't going to vote for him. But now, they would say either I changed my mind or I'm thinking about it. So as someone who lost a big race in 2005, I can say that I believe that he set himself up well for the future, and I hope that we'll see him again at some point in the future if things don't work out tonight.
In your case, it was pretty much expected all along that you would make another run for mayor, and after Phil Hardberger had his 4 years, you did, and you were successful.
Well, I'm surprised by the depth, at least in Bexar County, of really what looks like a Republican sweep From the judicial races, it looks right now like the congressional race with Ciro Rodriguez and Kiko Canseco. And so this was definitely a very bold election for the Republican Party. You know, and I was over at the Democratic Party headquarters earlier and reminded folks that there have been years, especially in the more recent past in Bexar County, where Democrats have really kind of cleaned Republicans' clocks. And so, you know, this was not a good year for us, but hopefully in 2 years and 4 years, we'll come back.
San Antonio. My best estimate is that we will not have in San Antonio a completely new congressional seat, but that we'll pick up part of a new one. So that could shrink the size of the 23rd Congressional District. And I think it should probably shrink, not only because it's, I think, the largest congressional district in the United States, but also because the areas in northwest San Antonio and around El Paso have grown quite a bit since we last did redistricting.
Well, I asked your brother this question when he was here last half hour. What do you make of the talk that after tonight, Governor Rick Perry is either the or one of the Tea Party favorites for president in 2012?
I think that that's probably true. I think that certainly his very staunch kind of hardcore conservatism is something that resonates with an overwhelming majority of Tea Party supporters. I think that he is probably thought of as more viable than, say, a Sarah Palin. And, you know, I know
we're hearing that there's talk in the RNC that there has to be a stop Palin effort, that the establishment Republicans are afraid of her. If they're going to try to stop her, they have to stop her with somebody, right?
Right. I think you're right. And I think that, you know, at bottom, people want you to be able to win the primary, but they also want you to win the presidency if you're going to be the nominee for president. And I know I heard Julian mention that Rick Perry had not made a lot of inroads and networks with folks, which I think is a fair point. I think that's true. But the reason that Sarah Palin is seen as kind of damaged goods is because she's kind of burned herself with folks. Whereas I think if I was in Perry's camp, of course I'm not, but if I was, I would make the point to party leaders that, look, to some extent, he's a fresh face. Even though he's been governor of Texas for many years, he is never really stepped into the national spotlight in an intense way, and that could actually be a good thing for him.
So Joaquin Castro giving advice to the Perry camp that he hopes, of course, they don't take because he doesn't want them to do well. But appreciate your giving us the advice anyway.
So the question for a Democrat is, you know, based on that showing, would I be in striking distance in 4 years? And you've got to be fairly confident that the answer is yes. And so, you know, I think a lot of people tonight are waiting to see where he ends up. And, you know, with the proviso that this was a very difficult season for Democrats. I mean, there's no question about that. Layer on top of that the fact that we're already in a Republican state. You know, so that's kind of a double whammy. But nonetheless, I think you've got to have some gauge. This is the gauge for us at this point.
What did you take away from today?
Well, it's a pretty historic vote in terms of how the, let's try it again, it's a pretty historic vote in terms of how the races at the Bexar County Courthouse developed. It appears that it's going to be close to a clean sweep for the Republicans, and that's never happened before. Historically, in Bexar County, we have some Democrat judges win, some Republican judges win, and it's never just one party totally controls the election. And so that's highly unusual and kind of historic. No, I just think that there was a lot of anger as to what was going on. That somebody I heard said that they're not voting on Obama, they're just serving him a restraining order, because I think that's where the public was going, is they kind of wanted to restrain what they thought was unbridled power by Congress.
All right, we're back with more of our midterm election coverage into the night on News Talk 550 KTSA.
Just what were your overall thoughts on?
I thought we were taking a picture.
Oh,
I'm
well,
like,
I'll turn it into a picture.
no, it's okay. It's
Okay.
okay. I can go. I'm flexible.